30 common mistakes defenders make.
1. Not paying attention during the prep phase. You'll see this all the time when you're playing ranked. You'll notice teammates just sitting around in the prep phase AFK, not doing anything. And this can be really devastating for your rounds. The reason for this is because...
Whoa, that Blackbeard is definitely lost. But yeah, I definitely agree with this. Like, even if it is just reinforcing the wrong wall at times, at least you're trying to set up. But yeah, bring a shotgun, bring some sort of like bailiff or secondary like soft breach, and it'll help your team a lot. And for barbed wire and traps, always put it at the furthest part of the staircase on the bottom, never the top.
If you waste too much time scrolling on your phone before actually playing during the prep phase, you're not going to have enough time to put down all your gadgets or reinforce all the walls that your team might need. So you might have a hole in your setup that the enemy team can abuse against you.
I feel like using your phone between siege rounds is low-key like counterproductive. What can you get done on your phone in like 30 seconds to a minute? Maybe you're taking someone back. But if you're just doom scrolling, bro, can you not wait? Do you have to doom scroll or sit in silence for 1 minute?
Mistake 2, not shooting drones in the prep phase. A lot of times in ranked, players will just be too focused reinforcing or placing their gadgets down to even care about drones driving by them to go into the bomb site.
True.
If you let drones drive by you during the prep phase, it allows the attackers to potentially get their drone into a good position to watch the bomb site or to watch rotations around the map, meaning that the decision not to shoot that drone might come back to bite you later in the match. Always shoot drones no matter what in the prep phase. You don't have to specifically hunt them out, but if you hear a drone...
I mean, no, I actually think you should. Like, if you don't have anything to do, like if your team's reinforcing everything, you can go drone hunt. Like, go look for some pre-placed cams. Like, go for like 1 or 2 drones around. It's pretty good.
Drive by you, even if you're in the middle of placing a gadget down, you should shoot it. Mistake 3, having an operator main. A lot of players, when they first start out in Siege, they'll choose one operator and just main them permanently. And that will be the only operator they play when they get to each side. This is a horrible idea. The reason why this is such a problem is because you're not learning how all the other operators in the game works. So when you go...
Oh my god, Rook mains. Ugh. Rook main.
Up against them, you're going to be completely lost. But the main reason why this is such a problem, especially in Siege X, is because the enemy team can choose to ban your main. And if you only play 1 or 2 operators on defense, this can be devastating. If the enemy team notices that you're doing really good on Jaeger, they can just ban
bag
Jaeger
of punching is a
outright,
bag
and
of
you have no
frozen
recourse.
vegetables for ice.
So make for sure to be playing
I'm not
more
gonna eat
than
them
just a few
anymore because
operators on defense.
my hands are a
Mistake
little
4,
inflamed right
not
now.
hopping on cams at the end of the prep phase. You always want to have at least one guy on your team hop on cams at the end of the prep phase, because this can allow you to see where the attackers are spawning, which can give you...
This is very underrated. Like, going on a default cam in the first 15 seconds of the round, it could like literally change your entire push on your defense, and you can just find where they're pushing so much easier.
Information about where they're going to enter the map from and what kind of push they're going for. So try to get in the habit of doing this, because if you don't do it immediately at the end of the prep phase, it'll give the attackers time to shoot the default cams outside, and then you won't have any info.
Yeah, like 80% of the time they're gonna get shot, but the 20% can be like a free kill. And there's a lot of things in this game that are like those similar 10 to 20% increments of percentage actually working out. And if you stack them, you'll have like a consistent 80% chance of winning every round, which is really good.
Mistake 5, forgetting to bring wall denial. This happens a lot, especially in solo queue. If you're not paying attention to what your teammates bring, you might end up loading into the round and finding out that no one picked bandit or Cade. And this will end up losing you rounds a lot of the time, because if you don't have any sort of wall denial or hatch denial, the enemy team will be able to easily breach any reinforcements.
This is very, I wouldn't say situational, but like every bomb site, every map has a bomb site in the basement or something like that, right? Usually a second floor site is usually a horizontal wall. So I recommend bringing bandit. I would only use Cade for like basement sites because you can get hatches and you can get walls, but depends on what it is. But yeah, like don't think you have to bring it every round, because sometimes you sitting in sight can actually be like worse when you need to be fragging out and roaming.
And be able to open up massive lines of sight into the bomb site. So while bandit and Cade may not be the most fun operators, you always want to have at least one person on your team playing them. Mistake 6, spawn peeking. Many players will love to push back on this because they just enjoy spawn peeking and think it's fun. However, you're going to end up losing more rounds than winning based on...
I haven't spawn peeked in probably like, I don't know, last time I spawn killed, honestly, probably for a video, but I never spawn peeked.
Off of spawn peeking, because when you open a barricade, it's extremely loud, so the enemy team will be able to hear...
It's situational though. If you know a really good one and you know how to get out of there safe, it's okay doing it once a round or once a game. I wouldn't spawn peek more than once a game though. because it could catch them off guard.
Are you doing it on their drones if they have any left on the map? And also, if the enemy team is smart and they have a drone somewhere in spawn, they can see the window that you're peeking and just pre-fire you before you can even react. 9 times out of 10, it's not worth spawn peeking because you're just going to end up putting your team at a disadvantage when you die. Mistake 7, barricading too many doorways.
Oh, I hate this, bro. But if I was like kind of new or starting this game, I would think like, oh, the more barricading I can do, you know, the more secure the site is. But barricading, it works against your own team because of the rotations.
This a lot in lower ranks. Players will just start barricading every doorway because they're super scared and don't want to get caught off guard by the attackers. However, this ends up doing more harm than good.
$8?
The reason why is because it stops your teammates from being able to rotate between the bomb sites, and it also stops them from being...
I recommend using Twitch Prime, which is free with your Amazon Prime. You can use every month.
Able to get back to the site. So if you have a roamer playing somewhere else on the map and they start rotating back to the site, if you've barricaded all the doorways, they're not going to be able to get back in, and the attackers, if they're planting or inside the site, they're going to be able to react to that roamer entering the site and get a free kill on them. Never barricade doorways into the site because of this. Mistake 8. Equipping laser sights to your weapons. A lot of players who are frustrated with the slower ADS speeds of modern Siege will bring laser sights on all their weapons. However, on defense, this is almost always a bad idea. The reason why on defense this is such a bad idea is because since you're a defender, you're going to be spending a lot more time just holding angles and not actually running or pushing the attackers. So there's very few situations where you need a faster ADS speed.
I used to be very pro laser just because it was my personal preference, but like I've slowly grown out of it and I'm fully out of laser now unless I'm using a DMR. But yeah, I just don't think it's probably worth it, them being able to see it. Maybe because I would, even if they did see my laser, I would end up killing them anyway. But I think this does promote, without a laser, more like cross replacement before walking into somewhere.
And the downside of a laser sight is a lot more prevalent on defense, because if you're holding an angle on a doorway, if an attacker sees that laser sight, they're going to know that you're holding the angle and they're going to be able to pre-fire you. So it's almost never worth running a laser sight on defense, and you should avoid doing so. Mistake 9, equipping bad recoil attachments. Newer players, when they come over to Siege, a lot of times they'll just throw on whatever attachment sounds good to them. You might see them with an angled grip and muzzle brake on Jaeger's gun. Yikes. And this is a horrible idea. Generally, you want to run a flash hider on any weapons.
Yeah, I don't blame them, because like a lot of times they probably don't even know too much about loadout. They kind of just pick whoever's cool. But yeah, this is definitely a good worth like going into your loadout between matches and even between the match starts.
With a lot of vertical recoil, and then a compensator on any guns that have a lot of horizontal recoil. And then you want to put that together with a vertical grip. You want this on pretty much every weapon, because if you don't run those attachments, you're going to have a lot harder time controlling the recoil, and you might end up losing fights because the recoil gets too jumpy and you weren't expecting it. Mistake 10, red pinging on cams. Red pinging on cams 9 times out of 10 will just get the camera shot, because it alerts the enemies that you're pinging that you know they're there. So they're going to start looking for that camera immediately after they get red pinged. And 9 times out of 10, unless it's a really well hidden Valkyrie camera, it's going to get shot. So pretty much never red ping on cameras, especially if it isn't a bulletproof one. Mistake 11, getting too aggressive while roaming. A lot of players think that roaming is all about getting kills. However, that is not the case. In Siege, when you're roaming, you just want to be wasting as much time as possible. So generally, you just want to shoot at the attackers.
This really reframes someone's thought about roaming, because you would think like, okay, I'm gonna push wherever the nearest sound is to me, which is good most part. You should know times to like stop, wait a little bit. Oh, they haven't joined me yet, I can, you know, catch them off guard, go for shooting drones, even just like a decoy shot, like impacting above their window they're about to hop through. That just creates ghost pressure. So if you combine ghost pressure with your roam, you're going to be a lot better at it.
Them scared to push you and then fall back once they start surrounding you. So what you don't want to do is run.
Basically, it's like it's rage baiting the enemy
at the enemy team and try to get kills and then end up dying in the process. Because if your roamers die early while you're on defense, 9 times out of 10, you're going to end up losing that round, because the attackers don't have to worry about anyone flanking them and they can just focus on committing to the strategy they have in mind. Mistake 12, not calling out to your team when you rotate. Whenever you stop holding an angle in Siege or you move to a different position on defense, you always want to tell your teammates that you're doing so, because your teammate might be playing in a position where they're expecting you to keep holding that angle.
Yes, spread aura.
And then when you leave, they might end up dying to the angle you were just watching. If you tell your teammates when you're rotating and what angles you're watching, they can more accurately position themselves on the map, and it ensures that they're always watching the correct angle. Mistake 13, having too many people on site. Many players who play defense are scared to play outside of the bomb site.
I think this applies mostly to new players and like low rank people where they just anchor site every round. They sit in one corner.
Simply just for the fact that they're not used to siege, and so the idea of roaming or playing anywhere else other than in the bomb site scares them. However, generally, if you have any more than 2 people sitting directly in the bomb site, 9 times out of 10, that's going to end up hurting you significantly. That's because when you don't have enough roamers off site, it's a lot easier for the attackers to get into the building and surround the bomb site. And then once the bomb site is surrounded, it's very easy for them to just pick off the anchors one by one. So you generally want to have a maximum of 2 people playing in the bomb site at once. Mistake 14, bringing nothing to make rotates. You always want to be paying attention to...
Yeah, I did mention this earlier, but yeah, bringing some sort of impacts, bailiff, secondary shotgun, a lot of operators getting this buff
what
too.
Your teammates are bringing. If none of your teammates have shotguns or none of your teammates have impacts to make rotates, you always want to pick an operator that can do that. This is because it's super important to have rotates between the bomb site and also to be able to make head holes. And so if your teammates aren't bringing anything to do either of those things, you need to be paying attention to that and choosing an operator accordingly. If you don't, it's going to end up with you either having to waste a nitro cell to get the rotate open, or you'll just end up with no rotate at all, which means the attackers will have a much easier time pushing the site. Mistake 15, not playing off your teammates. Players, especially in lower ranks, don't realize that they need to be...
Yeah, I feel like this is more of a thing you learn like probably plat or emerald higher. But yeah, you gotta like look at your teammates' positions and kind of like make your own bonds with them. And it's just basically refrags.
Playing off their teammates. And instead, they'll just go play on the other side of the map away from anyone else, and they won't have anyone nearby to help them. The reason why this is such a bad in Siege is because you want to be able to trade when your teammates die. So this is why you typically want to play pretty close to another teammate. This is why roamers typically roam in groups of 2, so that way they can play off of each other. And that's also why anchors typically play pretty close to each other, so that way if one of them dies, they can end up getting the trade. Now, what is a trade? A trade is basically just when someone dies on your team, but then you get a kill on the attack immediately afterwards. It evens out the man count and stops the attackers from getting ahead of you in man count. And it's extremely important because if the attackers have a higher man count than you late in the round, it's going to be a lot easier for them to execute onto the site and
yeah, paying attention to like the 4v4 sign is very, very important.
Get the plant down. Mistake 16, spectating when you die. In Siege, you always want to be on cameras as soon as you die. You never want to just be sitting AFK, spectating your teammates or scrolling your phone. The reason for this is obvious. You want to be giving your team as much information as possible. And if you're not on cameras, you're not going to be gathering any information for your team. And you're just going to be seeing what your teammates are already seeing. This is why you should always be on cameras. Even if it's a camera that doesn't currently seem useful, you may end up seeing something that could be useful for your teammates later. So always sit on cams, even if all the seemingly important ones have been shot. Mistake 17.
That is a very like heavy emphasis on that. Even though you might not see them all the time and they might be shot out, you got to be on default cams for like the one moment they are on a camera, and that can change the round.
Blaming your teammates and being toxic when you die. You see this a lot in Siege. Players will die and then immediately start yelling in game chat at their teammate and blaming them for why they died. You never want to do this, even if it is true. If your teammate gets you killed and you start yelling in game chat, all it's really going to do is make that player play worse, or it's going to make them get more toxic towards you, and then your entire team's morale is just going to fall apart. If you die because one of your teammates makes a stupid mistake, don't get mad at them in game chat. You can get mad at them privately, but just don't get mad at them in game chat.
Oh no, I'm letting it rip. I'm letting it rip on them. I'm joking. I'm not doing that. But yeah, like I actually don't think people really yell that much in game chat. Like they did kind of just like, I don't remember the last, like it doesn't really happen as often, but I know what he's talking about.
And just keep it pushing, because a game can always be clawed back and you don't want to ruin that possibility by making your teammate mad at you. Mistake 18, leaving environmental objects up. Right now, a lot of players don't even really understand where all the environmental objects are because they're relatively new to Siege X. However, there are some environmental objects that can be extremely detrimental to the defense. And so if you notice some of these objects, like...
Yeah, I guess. I'm gonna be completely honest. I never shoot these out. I would only do it maybe for like Clubhouse for ban tricking on gym, but that's really about it.
Fire extinguishers or gas pipes laying around the map, you should shoot those objects that are bad for you, so that way the attackers can't use it against you later in the round. So try to do this in the prep phase before the attackers are able to get in the building and use it against you. Mistake 19, stacking too much utility on one side of the map. In Siege, you want to have your utility generally spread around the bomb site on different areas. The reason for this is because if the attackers end up doing a push that you're not expecting, you'll still have utility on that side of the map ready to help you. For example, if you stack all your Jaeger ADSs on one doorway into the site and the attackers end up pushing the complete opposite side of the map, now all those ADSs are going to be doing nothing for the rest of the round. So try to make for sure that you at least place some gadgets on all sides of the map, so that way if the attack...
Yeah, place it like, you know, evenly throughout the site plus further out of the site, so that way, you know, you get the most amount of protection possible.
Do go through that side, you'll be ready for it. Mistake 20, Reinforcing walls between the bomb site.
See this too many times.
This is only really an issue in lower ranks, but it's still worth mentioning because it can be absolutely detrimental to your defense.
Yes.
Generally, if you reinforce too many walls between the bomb site to the point where you can't make rotates, your team is most likely going to end up
Chat, if someone reinforces between the bomb site, is that permission to team kill them? Yes or no?
losing. The reason for this is because when you reinforce walls between the site, if the attackers get control of one bomb site, they can plant without having to worry about you shooting them or rotating through to the other site. This makes it a lot easier for the attackers to get plants down, and it also just makes it easier for them to enter the bomb site in the first place. So never do this. Mistake 21. Sprinting too often. This is specifically a problem with roamers, but a lot of time people when they play roamers, they'll just run around the map and not really aim down sights very much. If you sprint too often, you might run into an attacker that you're not expecting to be.
Yeah, I think it's very heavy emphasis on like, if you're gonna die with your gun up and like attempting to shoot back rather than just like trying to sprint away all the time.
There, and then your gun won't be up and you won't be ready to take the fight, so they'll end up getting a free kill on you. In Siege, generally, you don't want to sprint unless you absolutely...
Chat, I think my brain is rotted. Every time I see the number 21, I just think of gambling.
You know the area you're sprinting in is clear. So that way if a gunfight does end up happening, you're ready for it and you won't get caught off guard. Mistake 22. Not taking advantage of your weapons. What I mean by this is players will end up picking a shotgun and then playing in a position that doesn't allow them to take advantage of that shotgun. They'll play in a long distance position that puts them at a disadvantage. This is the opposite of what you want to do. If you're playing smoke with a shotgun SMG-11, you want to play close range. You want to find a position that you can play in either in or around the bomb site that you can take close range gunfights on the attackers easily. And the opposite goes for if you're picking an operator like a Rooney with a DMR. You want to be taking long range gunfights in that case because your weapon and the weapon sights that you have available are going to allow you to do that and be more effective at that than if you were to take a fight in close range. So try to take the gun you're using into account when you're choosing where you're going to play inside the map. Mistake 23. Sticking to the same strategy repeatedly. When you lose in Siege, generally you don't want to run the same strategy back.
Oh yeah, this is especially for like defense setups. Like if you have a certain like plant denial or like a roam and it clearly worked last round, do not do it again because they're just going to overcompensate. But that allows you to just literally do something different and it will work 10 times better
a second time. However, people do this all the time in ranked. The reason why you don't want to do this is because if you run the same strategy back, the attackers already know how to counter it and they'll be able to walk straight through your strategy easily. And even if you don't lose while using that strategy, you don't want to reuse it later if you go to overtime. The reason for this is because if you reuse the same strategy again in overtime, the enemy team will be prepared for it. They're going to know what you're going to bring and they'll be able to more effectively counter your strategy. So generally you don't want to use the same strategy twice in ranked, and you always want to mix things up, whether it be by picking new operators or by picking a whole new bomb site entirely. Mistake 24.
Yeah, I also like, it's like a prophecy I always go by. I never go to the same bomb site twice. Never. Wait, no. I think, wait. I'm thinking of the wrong thing. I never go to the same map twice in ranked. I always do something different.
Using to switch bomb sites. This kind of goes along with the previous mistake, but
also like, I think it's, for bomb site's sake, I think it's okay to go back to the same bomb site if you know what you need to correct. But if you don't do it, then don't go there again. Just go somewhere else.
A lot of time players will end up losing.
Like if it's a fight, it was a 2v5 in the first minute of the round. It's questionable.
Around on a bomb site, and then they'll just keep picking that bomb site until they eventually win it. You don't want to do this. Even if a bomb site might generally be considered meta or the best bomb site on the map, if you end up losing it, a lot of times it's more in your favor to just switch to a different bomb site to A, catch the attackers off guard, but also to B, potentially force the attackers to push a site that they're not super familiar with or super comfortable with. For example, if you're playing Gym Bedroom on Clubhouse and you end up losing, you might just want to go to Church Arsenal instead, because Church Arsenal, while many people might not consider it as good as Gym, it's still a decent bomb site, and the attacking team that you're going up against might not be as good at attacking.
You know, as a side note, I feel like I haven't played, maybe because I'm playing test server, but I have not played Oregon, Clubhouse, Chalet, Bank, or just OG maps in a minute. I've only been playing Skyscraper, Layer. That's about it.
End up getting a win by switching bomb sites that you wouldn't have gotten otherwise. Mistake 25. Not strategizing your bans. In ranked, you always want to pick...
Oh my god, I hate people who just ban your operator, bro. They just
the
ban whoever got
based
the last
on
kill
what
cam.
bomb site you're going to go next, and also
Holy
what the enemy team has been running. However, a lot of teams won't do that. They'll just ban the most meta operators and just go from there. For example, if the enemy team isn't picking Blackbeard, there's no reason to ban Blackbeard. Even if he might be an operator that you're scared of them picking in the future, or that might be a little...
Dude, I'm not to the point where I don't like banning Ace because he's just banned all the time. Like, fuck, I just want to play up against something different.
Annoying. You don't want to waste a ban on him when you could ban someone more useful. For example, if you're picking the bomb site Church Arsenal, and Clubhouse. A much better ban might be someone like Habana so that the enemy team can't get the hatches open, or banning an operator like Maverick so that they can't open Dirt Wall as easily. Those bans will be much more effective than a Blackbeard ban, especially if the enemy team isn't picking him. Mistake 26, not using Code Beast in the store. If you're not using Code Beast running out. This kind of goes along with the spawn peak mistake I mentioned earlier, but
although it's nice he's promoting his code, it's just very sad that the Ubisoft codes only apply for like 7 elite skins. Just a way to get people to buy skins that people don't even want.
Generally, you don't want to be getting super aggressive on the attack because it's going to end up giving them a free pick 9 times out of 10. Especially with Claymores in the state they currently are, it's a lot harder to pull off a run out without dying in the process. So it's generally not worth doing. The only exception to this is when an enemy is repelling in a position that really is going to end up losing your team the round. Then you can make the decision to jump out a window and potentially make a trade with them before you end up dying to a Claymore. But 9 times out of 10, it's not worth running out, and it's just going to end up losing your team the round. Mistake 28, wasting your explosives. So if your teammates have shotguns to help you make rotates and head rolls on the site, don't waste your impacts or nitro cells on it. The reason why you don't want to waste your explosives in the prep phase is because if the enemy team is bringing an operator like Osa, or they're bringing shield operators, those explosives will be much better used to counter them than by being wasted on a rotate that your teammate with a shotgun could have made anyway. Mistake 29, reinforcing disadvantageous walls. Now, what do I mean by disadvantageous wall? Well, a disadvantageous wall is any wall that makes it easier for the attackers to get into the map or to push the bomb site. For example, a wall that you should pretty much never reinforce unless you're going for a very specific strategy is the master bedroom wall going into the top main stairs hallway on Oregon. If you reinforce this wall, the attackers will be able to enter the master closet a lot easier and have a lot less angles to worry about. Whereas if you were to put head holes there instead, the enemy team would have to be much more worried about a defender swing.
This is like on and off, but like I think this applies more for like lower ranks. But dude, if you're reinforcing out that far outside the bomb site, you are lost, my guy.
From those head holes, and so they won't be able to just run into the closet.
But if it's for like a certain roam, I can see it being a problem
as easily. So when you're reinforcing walls on maps, you need to be thinking through whether or not it's going to be advantageous for the enemy team. And if it is, then you don't want to reinforce it. And the final and 30th mistake is reloading too often. In Siege, you don't want to just immediately reload after every gunfight. If you do this and another enemy swings you, it just makes you a free kill no matter what, because you're not going to be able to shoot back.
It's also like you lose your entire mag now. So if you reload with 1 bullet shot, you're wasting 30 more bullets.
A lot of players build this habit from playing games like Call of Duty, and then they come over to Siege and think that it's a good idea to do that. However, it's not, because reload speeds are a lot slower in Siege, and also because the enemy will be able to hear you reloading and push off of that reload sound. So only reload unless your gun is extremely low on ammo, or unless you're behind.
Chat, do you have this habit where you reload after every kill? Yes or no?
Cover and completely safe. Anyways, that wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed today's video,
yeah, that was a pretty solid video. I think every player should watch this video. Guys, like this video, subscribe to Beast Mod. Shout out to him for this video. But yeah, good tips, man. But we all know where the better place to find tips is at.